From the MCPLive.tv studios, located in downtown Conroe, it's the Conroe Art League, live.
Hello and welcome to Cal Live, the show that introduces to you one by one the many talented artists of the Conroe Art League and to the beautiful art that they create. My name is Ken Roy. I'm your host today as well as the president of the Conroe Art League. And my guest today is Julie Wright. Hello, Julie.
Hi, Ken.
How you doing?
I'm doing very well.
You know, we're just talking a little bit in the entry, and I said, when we talked on the phone, I said, I don't think I know you. But then when we saw each other, yeah, I've seen you at a reception, maybe two. And you're a fairly new member of the Art League, and maybe we'll come back to that. But for now, since I don't know you, and maybe the audience doesn't either, would you tell us a little bit or a lot about yourself, as much as you would like people to know?
Well, sure. I'm actually a graphic designer, and I also do painting.
Mm-hmm.
I say that because graphic design is what I studied in school. It's what I've done most of my career. And I'd say within the last year, I really picked up painting, and that's become a really big passion for me. But graphic design has always been the forefront of what I've done. I do websites and logos. I, build brands for big businesses, but there was this need in the last year, especially with COVID,
Mm-hmm.
To get that tactile part of art back into my life. So beyond the computer screen and getting back to the painting. So I've really been driven back to that,
Sure.
making a mess.
Sure, I'm making a mess. Where did you go to school for that?
I went to Texas Tech University out in Lubbock, Texas.
Is that where you're from?
I'm actually from San Antonio.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, so I grew up in San Antonio, moved to Lubbock for school,
Mm-hmm.
and after Lubbock, I moved to Fort Worth where I worked for an agency for a while.
And I used the word, when we were talking, I used the word illustrator, and you said, no, I'm a graphic designer. So that kind of tells you what I know, because I guess, I think I'm picking up that graphic designer, maybe you're working. Is it all computer work, or is there any drafting board to lay things out, or illustration is not part of it, though, I'm thinking?
It is a small part of it, yes, and there are emphasis that different graphic designers go with. My emphasis is more on branding, so logos and websites, but a good designer, I think, always starts with a good sketch, so they still know how to
They're
draw,
still doing it.
open up their book, but at the end of the day, you're usually on a computer.
Mm-hmm. And so you went to Texas Tech, graduated, of course, got a job, I think it was in Fort Worth.
Correct.
And then at some point you made your way here, and you have your own business, I think?
I do. So after we decided we needed to move to Conroe, my husband's job kind of led us down here about 3 years ago. I said, it's time for me to go full-time doing what I love to do. So I'm freelance with my graphic design work, but it's really opened a lot of doors for other things too. So the painting has become a really good opening.
Yeah. And so you've got to knock on doors. You say open some doors, but you got to go knock on doors if you're the boss, and you got to bring some business in. And then you started painting. I don't know, did you do any kind of art when you were younger? High school, college?
Yes. So as even a child, I'd open up.
Type, yeah.
I'd open up, National Geographic, and I'd want to redraw exactly everything in those books. But growing up, I didn't think that it would be practical to be an artist. A sustainable career for someone. I was lucky enough to have a high school art teacher that did tell me you can be an artist. Graphic design is one of those ways to kind of bridge between those. And so I was really lucky that I was kind of driven towards that career, and it's really opened a lot of doors to be fine art and commercial.
Yes, and I can see the way you talk about it and smile about it. It was the right decision and a good decision.
Absolutely.
And very happy with what you did. So how did you get to the Conroe Art League? I think you told me you joined in August of this year.
Yes, this summer I came to the Art League. And I'd say about a year ago I started painting, and it was all in my own studio by myself, and I kind of decided I need a community. So here in Conroe, this league is here, and it was nice to see other artists meeting at least once a month, if not more often, for different parts, classes, workshops. So that was really nice to jump into.
So when you decided to pick up the paintbrush, you didn't take a class, you just grabbed some, and I don't know what medium you work in primarily, was it?
So I'm acrylic.
Acrylic. So you grabbed a canvas, perhaps paper, maybe with acrylic, but more than likely canvas, and you just started painting, or did you take some classes, whether in person or online?
I did in college have to take a lot of studio art classes aside from the graphic design, and I painted then. But I would say that paintbrush stayed down up until just recently, so it was a little rusty when I picked it up, but I'm back on it.
Well, I'm glad you found us. How did you have a friend that was a member of the Art League, or did you just hear about the Art League somewhere?
No, I believe when I first moved here, a neighbor introduced me to the gallery just for looking and enjoying as part of the community, and it's kind of been in the back of my head ever since. Just, I need to come back and actually be part of the community.
I'm glad you did. And have you entered pieces in our monthly show to this point in time?
Yes, and I've really enjoyed that part.
And as soon as I said that, and we'll talk about that when you get your images, it struck me. Of course she has, because I know the image I want to talk about. And perhaps I've seen some of your work as well in the Art League. But your name was familiar. What, I know one thing you like to paint, subject-wise, but portraits, landscape, animals, nature, architecture, anything at all, or are there a couple of subjects that you gravitate to?
Certainly themes in nature. I love looking at landscapes and native species to North America. I think it's really interesting to look at species that have been in decline and celebrating the conservation efforts that we've gone through to, rebuild those and revive them, and just kind of starting conversations for everyone about what's in our backyard and really appreciating what we have. You, of course, have the zoo, and you can go see all of the other animals there, but we have some really great things just here in North America, too.
Sure. So is that a recent interest, or is that something, I guess, I think I read the term eco-diversity. Is that something new or something you've always been somewhat interested in? And you've been interested in it, and now you're trying to bring that into your art together?
I think it's always been there. I remember those National Geographics and those books as a kid, and Animal Planet, any shows where I could gobble up some nature shows, I'd be on it. So I think now it's just applying that to my work.
And you said, of course, in the backyard you can find a lot of things, or other parts of the country. Do you travel a lot specifically to seek out, I don't know, animals that you haven't seen before, or you've seen them, you just like to go back and see them again and again?
Sure. Well, I love hiking, so especially in Texas, you've got a lot of great places to be. We just got back from Big Bend and saw some great species out there. I even saw a black bear.
Did you?
I did. So,
well, I count you as lucky, because we went, my wife and I went maybe 4 years ago, and we looked, we're always looking, but we never saw the bear, a bear. So you did see a black bear?
Yes. Yes, a mother bear with 2 cubs. It was really special.
Fascinating. Was that perhaps in the mountains, or were they strolling across the, I don't know if it's a desert, but it's pretty raw there.
The mountains area, yeah.
Yeah. Well, good. And you see some of the deer, and I think there's a special deer, I forget the name of it, that habitates the
pronghorn, maybe?
The pronghorn,
yes.
I think so. And we saw a coyote.
Of course.
Yeah, of course. It's a fascinating place, isn't it?
Absolutely.
Did you bring painting supplies? Do you ever do that and do plein air or on site, or was it all camera? Or?
It was all up here,
All up to not even a camera, huh?
Yes, and you really get inspired by that. And a lot of times when you're there, it's hard to get photos of it. You're in the moment. The animals you see may be too far away, but they still inspire you. So you come home and you start looking at, inspirational pieces where you get those close-ups and you can really start emphasizing those features.
That was one thing. My wife wanted to see the Roadrunner.
Yes.
But she'd keep her attention and then drift off, and then there's one. She'd miss it again.
Those are definitely the tricksters in the wildlife.
And you'd go back to Big Bend in a heartbeat, I would think.
Absolutely. There's too many hiking trails not to go to.
Yes. Any other places in Texas, or even in the country or out of the country, that you have plans to go to, or you have been to?
Well, sure. The Great Smoky Mountains, that's where we went last year. Again, more bears there.
That's true. They're rather famous for that, I think. yeah. You said you like hiking, so you've hiked some or a portion of the Appalachian Trail?
A little bit. I wouldn't say that it was very intense.
Right. Well, that's the beautiful thing about it. If you can be close to it, and you can be in the Smoky Mountains, you can find a trail that'll bring you to the trail.
Right.
If that makes sense.
Yeah, drive right up to it. Go on it.
And walk a mile, 2 miles, whatever you may want to do. So landscape, animals. Merging that with your interests in ecodiversity. Do you have any contemporary or historic art heroes? Somebody that when you look for inspiration, you seek out, I don't know, on the internet, or maybe you have books?
Sure. Being in school, you had to take a lot of art history. So I always loved the masters like Caravaggio or Vermeer because of their play on light and dark and those high contrast images. But more recently, I really enjoy Wayne Thiebaud with his, the mundane. He takes the cake and he really paints the lighting hitting it and the way the colors clash, but they work.
Yes.
And so it's really great work.
And I think he's still productive, isn't he?
Yeah, I think he's, at least, he might be 100. He's
think
way
so?
up there.
Really? I've known the name. I've seen some of his work. I never paid attention to just how old he was, but I thought he was at least my age, if not older. Coming to, I did take a look at your website, and I see that you in fact do commissions.
I do.
Or accept commissions. I like the way you approach it. You might tell us about some of what you have on your website if someone wants to do a commission.
Sure.
How do they get to do a commission, or you to do a commission?
Commissions can be anything from landscapes that you visited and you want to have this photo that you've taken while you were there actually made into a painting. Those are always really fun to kind of share those memories with the person. But it can also be your favorite animal or something that you've seen and that you really just enjoy. It's part of your home decor. And I've even done pet portraits. So that's always really fun. You kind of understand the personality of their pet and why they're important to that person. But the whole process is I need you to send me photos, and we kind of go through what works and what doesn't, make sure it's not too pixelated so that I can get those details in there. And there's always that little artistic leeway that we leave in there so that it can have that flair. It's never going to be exact to the photo. You would choose a photorealistic artist for that sort of work, but I like to give that flair, a little bit of color. You tell me kind of what's your style in the home, and we kind of make it perfect for you.
And it impressed me that I think you said you do a lot of conversation with someone to get a feel for what they're interested, what their personality is. I would say you're brave to do a pet portrait because if you miss it, I suspect they'll let you know. It's not like missing the exact image of the mountain.
Absolutely.
You missed a pet portrait. You may have a problem. Would you say you have certain people that come back, like collectors?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
They like the first one, and especially if it's a pet portrait, they may get a new pet, and they want to add to that collection. So we start, repeating the size or the theme behind them, but each pet portrait is different. So there are ways of, continuing those relationships, or they go on a vacation again, so they want a new painting.
Oh, nice. And as you're talking about it, I'm going to give you an idea. Maybe you're aware of this, maybe you're not. At the Conroe Art League, we have what we call a feature wall. And if you can visualize the gallery when you come into the West Gallery, it's the middle wall. And that, in fact, can be scheduled, reserved by an artist. And it's a beautiful thing to do because it's your wall for that month.
Yes.
And get your artwork up there. And when you're talking about the collector base, great to go to your contact list. I'm having a show. I've got new art, and bring all your collectors, friends, and family in there. So just something to think about. We're starting to pick up on that again. We've had, I think, at least a couple, and some scheduled into the future. So you show at the Art League, and if you show, you have to docent.
Correct.
You're your own boss, so you can manipulate your schedule and be over there. Do you do anything else at the Art League? Take any lessons? have any interest in doing anything else at the Art League?
I haven't at this time, but
Okay.
I do know that you guys have a lot of contests that pop up. Those
That's
are always
true.
fun to jump into.
I'll make a pitch for one that's going on right now. It's our national show, the Cal National 2022.
Yes.
And in fact, we're going international with it. And you may want to take a look at that. It's on callforentry.org. It's open to anybody, nationally and internationally. And there will be $5,500 in prize money. It's a juried show, so get your work in. If you're juried in, we limit the juried pieces to about 60, and then the judge picks one. So maybe you could be one of the winners. Are we ready to look at some of the images?
I think so.
Okay, let's bring the first one up, and boy, that's just magnificent. That red and the blue is just, the contrast is something, and I love the way that Ram is looking out past the picture plane into the distance. You can almost imagine he's on a mountain,
Yeah.
a ledge, and he's going. So tell us the title, tell us the medium, tell us maybe the inspiration, if it's from your own reference photo, or maybe not.
This one is called The Mountain Climber, and he is a bighorn sheep. My husband and I went on a honeymoon to Taos, and
Yes.
we climbed up Wheeler Peak, and we did see the bighorn sheep running there, and it was kind of an inspiration. In the last year when I started painting, this was one of the first things that was in my mind, and I had to paint a bighorn sheep. And it was just the idea that those horns make this wonderful shape, and I had to emphasize that. And so a lot of times what I do is I find reference photos, not necessarily one singular one. A lot of times I can't find the exact photo I like.
Sure.
So I'll take a compilation and I'll start piecing together the anatomy and the areas that I want to emphasize. And it's definitely that ram's horn that was really what I emphasized on this one.
You hit a home run on that one. As I'm looking at it, and of course I like the ear right in the middle of it. And then as you're talking about emphasizing the horn, I'm realizing I can't really see but a portion of the other horn,
Right.
and it's going that way. And I'm thinking, well, that's great, because it's not distracting from this horn, which is really what you want to emphasize. And that whole spiral circle, and then coming right back to the eye, and has that glint in the eye, huh? It's kind of a steely-eyed ram looking out, and the choice of blue, I think, was really nice.
That
The
contrast.
shadows, yeah, that's
He's
really good.
he's 4 foot by 4 foot, so he's a pretty large painting.
That is large.
And having him so up front, there's no background. It's really forcing you to have an intimate relationship with him, I think, in that moment of just looking at every little detail on those horns and his eyes and his expression.
Nice, nicely done. And the next work. Now this one we'll talk about, and because I'm going to cheat a little bit. I know the background on this one, and folks, the University of St. Thomas, in a project with the Art League, had a competition, and the theme of the competition was hope. And we had a good turnout, probably 30 plus pieces of art, and it had to be 24 by 36. It had to be a painting, no photography, no multimedia. 24 by 36 had to reflect the theme of hope. And yours was one of 3 that was selected.
That's right.
And I think looking at it, it expresses that so much. Would they be herons or
These are whooping cranes.
whooping cranes? One's looking up, the other one's looking down. Now that you say that, even more impactful because of the status of the whooping crane.
Correct.
And hope.
Yeah.
We can hope they keep existing. I've never seen one in person. Have you?
I have not.
You have not?
No, but their story is really what inspired all of this.
Sure. So tell us about it. So tell us the medium, the title, and some of the inspiration about it and the design of it.
Sure. This is called Hope Takes Flight, and it is acrylic. It's inspired by the whooping crane mating dance. It was really interesting to know that only 22 cranes existed in the world globally, and they were able to take that small population that they found in the wild and help rebuild their numbers. It's still pretty small numbers, but they've really started growing those over the last 20 years.
Julie, that was 20 years ago? There were only 22?
Correct.
So
So
that, in the United States?
yes,
Yeah.
and it's a North American bird. It's one of the largest birds in North America. It's also one of the most rare birds. There's, I believe, one or two flocks known in the U.S. that are sustainable, and they're continuing to grow those numbers over time. They are a migratory bird, so they have to make sure that the places that they stop over are always, safe for them. So there's a lot of education, a lot of learning curve for researchers to figure out how to educate the population, the rest of the communities on how to preserve them and take care of them and give them their space, but also for zoos and different, different conservation groups on how to continue breeding and encouraging their growth.
Do you know the number now? How many?
I don't recall, but it is in the hundreds, so
I
going
was
from
gonna say,
22.
Yeah, it would have to be significantly more. And they're migrating, do you know, from Canada or just?
Yes, and they'll come down to the Texas. They used to be all over the Gulf Coast, but right now there's one population in Texas. There's maybe two populations in Texas or just in Louisiana.
Do they continue to migrate to Mexico, or do they go on to Central America? Or
They
do
generally stop here.
They stop here? Interesting. So it would be along the coast and the marshes?
Correct, they're
on
marsh
the
birds.
coast, yeah. I wonder where you could go in Texas to have a hope of seeing those. Maybe Rockport?
Oh,
in
it's
that
a little
area?
bit further south, and I
Further
don't recall
south?
which beach.
Like Brownsville, up South Padre maybe, somewhere up in there?
It may be around Aransas, yeah.
I have to look that up, because that would be fascinating
It would.
to see them.
You put that on your bucket list.
And put it on my bucket list. Well, very good. Let's go to the next one. That's wow. I wonder where that inspiration came from. Black bears, but maybe blue bears, and that's again that good. Is that blue a favorite of yours?
I am
Are
really
you
loving it
conscious of
lately,
that, or- yeah.
especially that phthalo blue that really comes through.
Well, that blue around the head, even in the cheeks and the collar and going down the legs and meeting up with the cub, nice job, because it really brings that out, which was your intention, I'm sure. So tell us the name of that piece, and again, if it's acrylic or not, and the backstory on that piece.
I have to be honest, I just finished this last week, and I haven't come up with a title yet.
Oh, okay.
But it is acrylic, and it was inspired by that trip I mentioned about Big Bend.
The Big Bend.
And just approaching those the three bears, because it was two cubs, and the mother popped up like, hey, don't, mess with my babes. And so we waited till they crossed the trail, but it was really interesting to see that. And after looking into it, the black bears in Big Bend actually were not there for years. In the 80s,
Right.
there were no longer a population there. But then eventually, they believed that at least one female came over from Mexico, and they started repopulating on their own. So it was a natural phenomenon that the black bears started repopulating the area. And that's not very common, especially for the apex predators to come back on their own. So that's a really exciting story, too, in conservation to hear.
That is exciting. I know a little bit, not much, believe me, but a little bit of that history from Big Bend going west in the mountain ranges there right on the border. Sheep farming was huge.
Right.
And what happens with sheep? Bears come down, the mountain lions come down, the coyotes, the wolves. So that worked to decimate, maybe not eliminate them, but getting somebody's sheep.
Right.
So the sheep farmer says no. So they concentrated effort to kill all the predators, and it was successful because bringing in helicopters, bringing in hunters, and so the population started to exist. I don't know. I wonder if there's much of a sheep industry left in
I'm
that
not sure.
area. going so much to synthetics, I got to believe, is probably not viable anymore because it's hard land. You know, it's hard
Right.
land to
Very.
for any kind of animal to graze and flourish there. But so that's a little bit of backstory on that. So it's good to hear they're coming back. When we went to Big Bend, I thought I heard maybe, I don't know, 5 or 6, 7, 10 confirmed there in the area, and I could be way off on that. Maybe
Some
it's
years
more
they'll
than
say
that.
500 sightings, some they'll say 300 sightings. So every year it
That's
kind
a
of
lot more than I
fluctuates.
thought.
But they're really exciting because you hear about all the cubs that are out there, so you know that they're thriving.
Good. Well, that's good. That's good news. So, Julie, where, if someone wanted to see your art, where would they go? Go to the Conroe Art League, of course.
Of course.
But what are some other places someone might find your art?
I'd start at my website. It's juliewrightart.com.
I don't know if I got that. JulieWrightArt.com?
Yes.
Okay. Just wanted to be sure.
But if you want to see the behind the scenes or just day-to-day activities that I'm doing, Facebook and Instagram. On Instagram, I love doing reels so that I'll have like a time lapse of with my phone up there, and it'll follow along how I'm doing the paintings, and that seems to be a really big hit with everyone.
I got to follow you now.
Yeah.
So when we leave here, I'll go follow you. And Facebook, do you have a page dedicated to your art, or is it just part of your personal page?
It is dedicated to my art. It's also Julie Wright Art. Same with my Instagram handle. So I keep it pretty easy for you to remember. Just Julie Wright Art across the board.
And you have some art in the gallery anywhere else in Conroe?
Well, we were talking about University of St. Thomas has
St.
a piece
Thomas
right now
has that piece for probably a few
through
more
the
months.
end of the year.
Any place else?
Branding Iron down here
That's what I was
in
getting to.
downtown.
Yes.
Yes, they have a few pieces, and they're up there, and they've got a longhorn and some fish and deer and all
nice.
kinds of great things in there.
Nice. So viewers, if you want to see Julie's art, of course you come to the Conroe Art League. You walk out the door and go south to the Branding Iron, find some of our art there, buy some there, and then go to University of St. Thomas Max, and yours and 2 other pieces from the Art League are at that location, which is right on Davis and Main Street. So you got a lot of art in downtown Conroe. You may have the prize right now, I think. So to see Julie's art, as well as the art of other artists of the Conroe Art League, please visit us at the Best Little Art Gallery in historic downtown Conroe. We're located at 127 Simonton Street. We're open Tuesday through Saturday from 11 a.m. to 4 p.m. So please join us there, where we live our creed to create, appreciate, and learn.